There is something not being told to us about the Red Planet. Recent advancements in space exploration have unveiled astonishing discoveries. After you've seen the photos I have to show you today of the shocking things found on Mars, you'll be demanding answers. Alien bones on Mars. A recent poll revealed that over 60% of people believe there's intelligent life beyond Earth. Could this belief soon become reality with the latest discovery from NASA's Curiosity rover? Imagine a world where humanity is no longer alone in the universe. What if concrete evidence of life on Mars, like fossilized remains, suddenly came to light? People would freak out, wouldn't they? And maybe that is why certain photos have been ignored. A grainy image from the dusty plains of Mars sparks a global debate. Is it a cleverly shaped rock or a bone? A chilling whisper of a past civilization. Maybe this picture will help you out a bit. Here's the same photo zoomed in and compared to a hip bone. You can't tell me you don't see the similarity. Some people are claiming that what the Martian rover found is evidence of a lost civilization on Mars. The images were dissected by a group of researchers at Martian Archaeology, who also say they found images of mushrooms, lichen, and other biological life on Mars. Folks are growing more and more convinced that NASA is involved in a cover-up to conceal the truth behind the Martian civilization, which, judging by the state of these bones, is long gone. One commenter, TJ Devereaux, wrote that, "After years of research, I'm convinced now more than ever that there's much more to Mars than what NASA admits to." Do you agree with the sentiment? If you're not yet convinced, keep watching, because next up is a stone circle that's been found on Mars. Who built Mars Henge? They're calling it Mars Henge. It's a huge stone circle at the top of a mound on Mars, and people are saying it was built by the same civilization that constructed Stonehenge. I have to admit, the images are mind-blowing. In the midst of an empty Martian landscape punctuated by dusty hills and fields of crumbly black rock, there looms a monument. The monument is at the very top of a mound. But hey, why am I describing it? Take a look for yourself. That's the image taken from the Lunar and Planetary Laboratory at the University of Arizona. It's a raw NASA image showing a circular formation of stones at the top of a hill. It's not doctored and it's not photoshopped. This is the real deal, people. But does it really prove that the builders of Stonehenge visited Mars? Or that the builders of Marshenge visited Earth? I'll leave that for you to decide based on the evidence. And all the evidence is pointing to something crazy going on. Although I will say that it's hard to tell the scale of the image. The stone circle could be several times larger than Stonehenge. Or it could be way zoomed in and we could be looking at the remnants of an anthill. There are other anomalies on the surface of Mars that you need to know about before deciding if the planet was once ruled by aliens. In 2001, the Mars Global Surveyor spacecraft took this image presented by NASA. What you're looking at is a hill, but it doesn't look like any ordinary hill. Just like the mound upon which the curious henge-like monument stands, there's something too artificial about this hill. It reminds me of the giant earthwork mounds found across America, especially in places like Illinois and all along the Mississippi River. Maybe it's not identical, but there are similarities. I also can't help but notice the similarities between the Martian Hill and the Keyhole Mound burials in Japan. It really does seem like whoever left these mounds and stone circles on the surface of Mars had something to do with the construction of ancient burials on our planet. Still, I don't want to definitively say anything one way or the other. I just want you to be aware of how strange this all is. I want you to look at these images and come up with your own interpretations. Here's another strange stone circle on Mars, the image captured by NASA's Curiosity rover in 2017. If you've had enough of stone circles, I think it's time we moved on to something larger and even more terrifying. Curiosity spots dragon bones. Move over, Targaryens, there are new dragons in town. Scientists may have just found the massive fossilized bones of draconic monsters in outer space. That sounds like it would make a really good premise for a sci-fi flick, but this is real life. On April 1st, 2023, NASA's Curiosity rover came across some of the strangest looking things ever seen on Mars. Don't let the date fool you, this is not an April Fool's joke. The date is totally coincidental. For the last decade, the Curiosity rover has been cruising around the Gale crater searching for signs of life. The crater is huge, looking like it was made by an angry meteor impact, but it is in fact a dried lake. Yes, Mars used to have lakes. The whole water thing isn't even a debate anymore. The Curiosity rover found clear evidence of ancient water waves on Mars. It spent 10 years crawling across the floor of a prehistoric lake bed. Where there's water, there's life. And that's what makes what the rover just discovered so much more amazing. The robot, which is about the size of an average car, took this photograph. People immediately recognized the strange shapes as looking like dragon bones. Notice the spiky protuberances sticking out of them like the spikes you would expect to see on a dragon. Here's a closer image from NASA processed by Paul Hammond. Look at those spikes. They don't look like rock formations at all. They look like the spikes you find on a lizard, or in this case, on a giant space dragon. Of course, NASA scientists won't call them dragon bones. The official story is that they are rocks. Nothing but boring rocks. Astrobiologist Natalie A. Cabral said that in 20 years of studying Mars, the dragon bones are the most bizarre rocks they've ever seen. Even so, Natalie still said these are only rock formations. Not everyone is in agreement, though. Many have pointed out that if such a thing was found on Earth, it would easily be identified as a fossilized plant or a fish backbone, not a natural rock formation. Maybe these strange structures aren't the fossilized bones of fire-breathing dragons, but they could be the fossils of great sea monsters. Remember, they were found at the bottom of the lake. These could be the bones of Mars's version of the Loch Ness Monster, which went extinct billions of years ago. Could these dragon bones be a clue to a past ecosystem unlike anything we've ever imagined? I'm not done hunting for skeletons on the Red Planet just yet. Next up is something even stranger than dragon bones. Spot the alien skeleton. I'd like to play a game. I hope I didn't sound like Jigsaw just then. My game is more like Where's Waldo? I'm going to show you an image and I want you to see if you can spot the alien hiding in it. The picture you're looking at was taken by the Curiosity rover, the exact same robot that photographed the fossilized dragon bones. Only this picture was taken in 2016 and it seems to defy all natural explanations. Some people believe it shows an alien skeleton sprawled on the rocks, complete with a headpiece, hidden in plain sight, or just a case of pareidolia. The owner of Paranormal Crucible on YouTube suggests the headpiece could be proof that the skeleton is that of an ancient Martian king, or perhaps a fallen warrior. If you didn't spot the alien skeleton the first time, let me help you out a bit. Here's the skeleton zoomed in, and here's the work done by Paranormal Crucible with each bone of the skeleton labeled, showing just how anatomically correct it is. You can see the clavicle bone, cervical spine, humerus, metacarpal, tibia, and fibula. I mean, it's just phenomenal work that's gone into cataloging the bits and pieces of this potential alien warlord. You may have heard of Scott C. Waring before. He's one of the most popular UFO commentators around right now. Weighing in on the photograph, Scott said there's enough evidence in the picture to rock the paleontology world off its high horse. That's a direct quote. I'm curious to know what you think, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is this proof of an intelligent species on Mars? Is this skeleton the remnants of a culture that controlled the planet? And now for a quick break. But first, I wanted to give a shout out and big thank you to Dan Chanone and Stephanie Conway for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. The rover's epic journey. Ever since this robotic explorer landed in an ancient Martian crater, scientists have been waiting for it to do one very important thing. The time has finally come. Perseverance arrived in the Jezero crater 3.5 years ago. It just recently started its long climb up the edge of the crater to its rim, where it's set to discover some of the most ancient rocks on the whole planet. The area that this rover is on its way to is one of the places where scientists suspect life may have flourished. I want to throw a hypothetical at you quickly, just to get your brain pumping. If an alien species were to send a rover to a desolated, humanless Earth 2 billion years in the future, future, it might not find proof that we existed. Would you say that's a safe assumption? The rover might land in the Sahara Desert, or it might land at the bottom of where the Atlantic Ocean used to be, assuming all water is gone in this hypothetical future. It could land in the middle of Death Valley, where there's no trace of human life. The point is that a handful of random rovers on a large planet could easily miss a civilization even as widespread as human civilization. Scientists keep sending rovers to the bottoms of lakes where, of course, they aren't going to find proof of an advanced society. But now things are getting intense. As the Perseverance rover gets closer to the rim of the crater, it gets closer to where there could be signs of life. Art Thompson from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory gave out the stats for the rover. Perseverance has gone on 4 scientific campaigns, collected 22 rock core samples, and traveled 18 miles. That's quite an impressive feat for a robotic explorer. Now it just needs to ascend roughly 1,000 feet to reach the rim, which it should do by the end of 2024. This is an event scientists have been looking forward to for a very long time. This isn't just a chance to search for life, it's also a chance to take rock samples that are so old, it hurts my head to think about it. The Jezero crater was created about 4 billion years ago when an unknown object crashed into the surface of Mars. The impact caused large blocks of rock to get stuck in the crater's rim. Those rocks are going to be collected by the Perseverance rover. What's in the rocks could change science as we know it. Researchers at NASA said that these rocks could be from the dawn of the solar system. That's basically the dawn of time. They could be the very building blocks of Mars and could contain microscopic secrets of its earliest environment. Trace elements in the rocks could give us a glimpse of a time when Mars was habitable, had liquid water, and possibly a civilization. Coming up right now is the face of the Martian civilization, one of the earliest and most controversial images ever taken of the Red Planet. The face of Martian civilization. Out of all the monuments that have potentially been found on Mars, there is one that trumps them all. It was one of the original images sent back from Mars. It came as such a shock to scientists more than 40 years ago that it sparked a public interest frenzy in Mars that has never gone away. I called it a monument, but the truth is that nobody knows what this thing is. All anyone knows for sure is that it looks like a face. Like a huge carved face staring up from the surface of the planet. And here it is. That's a face, right? You can see its nose, its mouth, and its dark, somehow sad eyes. The picture I just showed you was taken by Viking 1, the very first spacecraft to successfully land on Mars. Viking 1 was launched from Earth in the summer of 1975. 1 month later, Viking 2 followed it into space. A camera on board the first spacecraft took snapshots of Mars as it searched for potential landing sites and sent the images back to Earth. On the morning of July 20th, 1976, the lander separated from its orbiter and successfully touched down on the surface. It descended at a staggering 10,000 miles per hour. A few weeks later, on September 3rd, Viking 2 also made its touchdown. Between the two spacecraft, they captured about 50,000 images of Mars. One of them was the legendary face. From the very beginning, can you guess what NASA's stance was on strange things photographed on distant planets? To dismiss them as natural formations. This amazing stone face was the first big controversy. Scientists came out right away and said the face on Mars is nothing but an eroded rock formation. That didn't stop the tabloid headlines from flooding the shelves of every grocery store in America. Headlines that read things like, "Monkey face on Mars." This single photograph even inspired books, like The Monuments of Mars, in which author Richard Hoagland claimed that NASA took photographs of an entire city on Mars. Richard was of the opinion that the face was only one piece of a huge Martian complex. Full discretion, scientists did debunk the face on Mars in 1998 and 2001. Whether you want to believe the debunking is up to you. Researchers determined, based on high-resolution photographs, that the face was nothing but a trick of the light. I'd like to see NASA explain this next photograph as a trick of the light. Strange cylinder baffles NASA fans. How much trouble should NASA get into for littering a new planet? Either scientists are interstellar litterbugs, or the piece of debris spotted in a new photograph is not what NASA says it is. Before I get going, you have to see the picture. Everything I have to say only makes sense once you've seen it. So here it is, a very obvious piece of technology lying in the dust. The photo was taken by the Perseverance rover in 2022. You don't need 20/20 vision to see that the strange cylinder lying on the ground is a piece of modern machinery. It's not a rock, there's just no way. People who saw the image on social media said it looked artificially created and that it could be an artifact from an ancient civilization. Some said it might be a chunk from a crashed UFO. There is no way NASA could worm their way out of this one, but they didn't even try. NASA said the item belongs to them. NASA claimed it was dropped on purpose by the rover. The fact of the matter is that humans have started littering Mars and nobody has even stepped foot on the planet. Scientists have called Mars a robot graveyard. There have been so many mission gadgets left behind over the years that Mars is becoming NASA's personal garbage dump. Okay, I admit that might be a little dramatic, but it does explain the strange cylinder. It's not alien technology after all. NASA said the instrument is known as a launch abrasion bit. It was dumped on the ground purposely by the robot who ditched it for a new drill bit. That is, unless NASA is lying. Unless it is debris from an alien ship and NASA is taking responsibility so that they don't cause global panic. If NASA is lying about this, what else could they be lying about? Could they be fibbing about the next image I'm about to show you as well? Number 6. The Secret Martian Doorway. Step through this doorway and you will enter a secret Martian city hidden below the surface. A city home to real aliens who remain sheltered from the harsh radiation of space in subterranean towns. That's what I think about when I look at this picture, though whether it's true, nobody can say. The picture shows a reddish rock face with a rectangular opening that eerily resembles a doorway. This is the image captured on May 7, 2022 by NASA's Curiosity rover that ignited the internet's imagination. When the picture found its way online, the internet exploded. Everyone was raving about the alien door and speculating as to the secrets hidden beyond its threshold. As you and I have already learned today, NASA is quick to shut down wild speculation. And they usually have help from scientists around the globe willing to denounce the weird things in their photos as natural. This time coming to NASA's aid was British geologist Neil Hodgson. Neil said it's not a doorway at all, but natural erosion. Erosion osmosion. The portal in the picture looks a lot like a doorway. So what if scientists said the doorway is only 3 feet tall? Maybe Martians are really short? Planetary geologist Nicholas Mangold agrees with the erosion hypothesis. He blamed the formation of the doorway on Martian wind, creating fractures that formed in the perfectly perpendicular shape of a door. But what if there's more to the story? What if Neil and Nicholas are wrong? Alright, I think that's about as deep as the door mystery goes, so let's turn our attention now to a potential UFO found on Mars. I'd like to see Nicholas and Neil explain this next discovery on wind erosion. Number 5. First images of a Martian saucer. Mars might just be a hotbed of extraterrestrial activity. Some speculate that the red planet serves as a staging ground for alien spacecraft en route to Earth, where they may lurk in the Martian skies, observing us from afar. One of the very first pieces of proof came when NASA's Curiosity rover landed on the red planet in 2012. I've been talking about the rover a lot today, and for a good reason. It's taken the majority of photographs that people have freaked out about seeing weird things in. This is the OG incident. Speculation about Martians erupted when the first sequence of pictures was sent back to Earth. The photographs revealed something bizarre in the distance. A hazy, somewhat spherical object was captured that looked very out of place. It was there in the first picture, then in the next picture it seemed to be rising up off the ground. In the following images, it was gone. It appeared to be a UFO that was disturbed by the rover's landing. It picked up, shook itself off, and went to mind its own business elsewhere. Even scientists at NASA didn't understand what they were seeing at first. The public cried out, "UFO! It must be a UFO!" But NASA shut that theory down as quickly as they could. NASA soon came forward and blamed the mysterious object on dust. They said it was a patch of dust kicked up by the crane that delivered the robotic explorer to the surface. If that's correct, what a disappointment. Alright, but what about some footage uploaded to YouTube showing off the Curiosity rover's pictures of the Gale crater's rim? The video applied a couple of filters which revealed the presence of what looked like 4 flying saucers. Almost 1 million people watched the video in the first few days. Many viewers were convinced that yet again UFOs were present on Mars. I don't need to tell you what the experts said. You can guess that they blamed it on something totally mundane. And they did. Scientists blamed the alleged UFO sighting on dead pixels in the rover's CCD camera. 4 pixels lost functionality and created what looked like white alien ships in the distance. If you find it hard to believe that Mars is used as a staging area for alien vessels, maybe you'll have an easier time believing that fossils have been found. Number 4. Evidence of a coral reef. If Mars was covered in water, don't you think the surface should be covered in the remains of sea life like the fossils of Martian dolphins and other beasts? Well, if some recent images taken by everyone's favorite robot Curiosity are to be believed, it is. First dragons, now pieces of fossilized coral. This image was taken on February 24, 2022. It looks exactly like a fossilized piece of coral, only scientists say that's not the case. NASA scientists argue that the flowery artifact is not biological at all. They say it's a mineral concentration that formed billions of years ago. It's nothing but solidified minerals and has nothing to do with deep-sea coral reefs. Why are scientists always bumming us out? Look at this comparison photo. On the right is a piece of fossilized sponge from planet Earth. On the left is the mystery photographed by the Mars rover. Can you spot the connection? Is it enough to convince you that Mars hosted an ocean rich with crazy marine life? While scientists may have a different explanation for this curious object, it certainly fuels the fire of our imagination. Perhaps future missions with advanced tools will definitively reveal whether Mars once hosted a teeming ocean world. Next, I want to show you something that might convince you that Mars was home to followers of the Buddha. Number 3. Visits from the Buddha. Buddha on Mars, now there's an idea. When Buddha wasn't busy creating a new religion, he was apparently hanging out with aliens. A shocking photo taken by a Mars rover revealed a Buddhist statue on the side of a crumbling Martian cliff, and I don't know what to think. Is this so-called statue really the Buddha, or could it be a depiction of a mysterious alien god? The image, which you can see here, was brought to the attention of the public by UFO sightings daily. They took the original picture from NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab and zoomed in to reveal the shape of a reclining Buddha. It is remarkable, the similarities between statues of the Buddha on Earth and this curious formation on Mars. I know that Buddha was all about enlightenment. Maybe he did some astral projecting and visited Mars, and the ancient aliens built a statue of him. But if that's the truth, where is that civilization now, and why isn't there anything else left of them? NASA scientists say the Buddha is just rock formation. It's about as real as seeing a dragon in a cloud rolling overhead. Here's a surprise for you though. Evidence has arisen that there was a major cataclysm on Mars, one that may have destroyed all life. More on that after I explain why sunsets on Mars are blue instead of red. Number 2. Why are Martian sunsets not red? They call it the red planet, but that's not the color that paints its sunsets. On Mars, everything's turned upside down when the sun dips below the horizon, and the thin Martian atmosphere ignites in a vibrant blue, a breathtaking contrast to the rusty red dust that covers the landscape. Mars is home to pale sapphire sunsets, the likes of which you'll likely never be able to see on your home planet. The science behind the Martian sunset is the same as the science of our brilliant red, yellow, and orange sunsets. It all has to do with light. Or more specifically, the scattering of sunlight. Sunlight comprises many different wavelengths. We recognize those wavelengths with our human eyes as different colors. When those differently colored wavelengths pass through our atmosphere, they interact with dust particles that scatter parts of the light spectrum. This scattering creates the beautiful sunsets we all enjoy so much. Now take a look at what happens when the sun goes down on Mars, the image taken by our good friend Curiosity. Isn't that just dazzling? The whole atmosphere glows crystally blue as the sun sets over the horizon of a planet covered in chalky red dust. It's dazzling because the Martian atmosphere is much different from our own. The light from the sun scatters differently, so different parts of the light spectrum flood the atmosphere. Did you know the pressure of Mars's atmosphere is about 1% of ours? It's different in composition and density, and doesn't have any nitrogen or oxygen in it. To experience the Martian atmosphere for yourself, you'd need to be 18 miles above the surface. That's more than 3 times higher than Everest, just for reference. Now get ready to be jealous of a robot. The only things that have witnessed the blue Martian sunset in real time are the rovers Perseverance, Curiosity, Spirit, Opportunity, Zhurong, and Insight. Next up is the revelation I promised you earlier, the Martian cataclysm. Number 1. The Mars disaster destroyed all life. What if before the biblical flood destroyed antediluvian civilizations on Earth, there was a similar cataclysmic event on Mars? The data that's being collected by Martian rovers suggests that yes, a disaster did indeed happen. It was an event so horrible that it would have ended every single life form on the surface of Mars. This was a dinosaur-level extinction event, but scientists can't quite crack the code. They think it may have involved volcanic activity. There may have been an asteroid impact. Whatever it was, it obliterated the Martian atmosphere. Do you remember how a few decades ago everybody was terrified about the holes in the ozone layer? The cataclysm of Mars was so brutal that it made our ozone holes look like pinpricks in the side of the Great Wall of China. Thanks to the rovers I've talked all about today, scientists now know that Mars had an atmosphere that was rich in oxygen 4 billion years ago. Rovers have also found proof that Martian soil was once saturated with water. Oceans flowed across the planet's surface at a time when Earth was an unformed ball of angry rock. All proof points to the development of life on Mars. Unfortunately, the timeline isn't our friend. It dictates that life likely wasn't particularly complicated. Let's crunch some numbers. Our wonderful solar system was only born 4.5 billion years ago. That means there was about 500 million years for life to evolve on Mars, while it still had a healthy atmosphere. Even under favorable conditions, the best they could have hoped for would have been creepy sea creatures and trilobites. Mars needed another few 100 million years to evolve dinosaurs and mammals. At least that's the way modern scientists see it. Though keep in mind, all our scientists have to base their theories on is the evolution rate of Earth. It is totally possible scientists are wrong. Maybe on other planets, animals evolve significantly faster. In any case, disaster struck. The Curiosity rover detected different forms of the gas argon that pointed to the original atmosphere being blown away, sort of like fog on a windy day. NASA scientist Dr. Christopher Webster said there was likely a collision. I don't think you'd call it an asteroid collision because it was just too big. A better term would be rogue planetoid collision. Christopher said that whatever smashed into Mars was about the size of Pluto. What an explosion that would have made. You probably could have felt it from Earth. If anything had been living on Mars, it was annihilated in a matter of seconds. This was the most violent time in our solar system's existence. For the first 700 million years that the Sun existed, Earth and Mars were blasted by huge chunks of space debris. Our solar system was like a pinball machine with asteroids and rogue planetoids ricocheting around. Venus and Mercury were hit too, and so was our moon. Scientists call this time the Late Heavy Bombardment. I was going to end here on this high note, but there's one crazy piece of history I feel compelled to share with you. In 1909, scientists looked at Mars through their telescopes and saw what they thought was an apocalypse being carried out. I'm dead serious. This was international news. A 1909 edition of the New York Times described a violent apocalypse unfolding on Mars. Scientists reached their conclusion because of a mysteriously gloomy haze of yellow that spread across Mars like mustard gas. American astronomer Percival Lowell noticed the cloud and also thought that he found canals built by an intelligent race of creatures. Half the scientific community was convinced that volcanic eruptions were destroying Martian society in real time. People stood on their balconies and looked through their telescopes and thought they were seeing a world falling into ruin. The theory has been discredited now, although Percival Lowell remains one of the founding fathers of modern astronomy. It's still unknown what caused the yellow gas to spread over Mars a century ago. You might also be interested in the theories of John Brandenburg, a plasma physicist. He thinks that thermonuclear war wiped out all Martian civilization 180 million years ago. His proof is the fact that Mars is covered in a layer of radioactive substances like uranium and thorium. Yes or no? Is NASA covering up the secret truth of Martian life? Answer me in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and come back soon for more videos from the channel.